Hello, it's your boy, and today I will be reviewing one of the most divisive MCU movies to come out to date by the looks of it, and that is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, unlike Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man and the Wasp do face a lot of Quantumania, and so you can't lie that the title was misleading. Now, let's get into it and see where it falls on the Hot Pockets to hand grenades spectrum. So, let's start off, as we normally do here, with story. In terms of story, it has a fairly cohesive story. Definitely more cohesive than Ant-Man and the Wasp. Maybe a little less cohesive than the first Ant-Man movie. But it does flow fairly well, and main issues do come with a bit of pacing. Now, I'm not sure if that was a story issue or a directing issue. It could just as well be the fact that this movie runs in just barely over 2 hours. I think if it had like 10 more minutes of screen time, it would have been able to fix out the pacing issues. So, with that said, I'm going to lean in on a little more of a hot pocket side to the story due to the fact that there are those pacing issues which could be story based. Like maybe the story's told a little out of order. Next, we are going into cinematics. That includes your cinematography, your visual effects, cinematography, visual effects, choreography, fight choreography, in which case, this movie, I was scared going into it because of how much I read that the visual effects were bad and were awful, and how dare they release this? This looks like it was made on a $2 budget. To which I say, bullshit. It looks great. It does look to be a very CGI heavy film, but I guess they didn't want to make practical sets, as that could probably just end up being a little too inconvenient. I don't know. I understand the complaints, sort of. I guess if you just don't like computers, you might not like this movie, because it is a lot of green screen work, but it didn't look bad. I didn't really feel that weird sense throughout all of it. And the fight scenes were epic. Anything involving that main man Kang was epic, to say the very least. And cinematography was just fine. So, the cinematics of this movie earn a solid hand grenade score here. Now let's move on to directing. As mentioned earlier in the story section, I'm unsure if the pacing issues were on the directing side and how he was trying to speed up to fit a runtime, and he probably didn't feel like he had the option to work with a super long runtime. I state, if this was like 10 minutes longer, it might have been able to flesh out a bit of the story beats and like spread it out, so that way he didn't have to cram in all that action and then leave time for exposition. So that's going to get a hot pocket score from me. Now, this is where the movie gets good, and that is in its acting. Catherine Newton does a good job as Cassie. Evangeline Lilly is just, she's not bad, but she's kind of just floating around, not doing too much. Michael Douglas, unfortunately, is only talking about ants like he's addicted. Paul Rudd, exceptional as always. I love Paul Rudd. He's a comedic man. He's a funny man. I will watch anything with Paul Rudd. Now, the two big heavy hitters of this film, and that is Michelle Pfeiffer, who was great, but the real bread and butter. The reason you should go see this movie is Jonathan Majors. He puts the whole cast on his back and carries them to the finish line. He is menacing. He is fun. He is great. And he is like that character. He portrayed he who remains. I don't remember his name in Loki anymore, but he is the villain, and a great villain for the future of the MCU. I do kind of wish, and we'll talk a little more about this in spoilers, but I don't think they should have just straight up announced that he was the villain of Quantumania forever ago. I feel like it would have been more fun and enjoyable for everyone involved in the viewing experience to keep guessing on who the next threat is of the whole MCU, rather than them just saying, hey, in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, you'll be introduced to Kang the Conqueror. That kind of ruined it a bit. It could have been a better surprise. But in terms of acting, due to the fact that Jonathan Majors is a goddamn beast, that is a solid hand grenade score there. Now, let's move on to my expectations and experience with the movie. My experience was phenomenal. It was a great ride. It was fun to sit through. It never really felt like it was too long in a sense. At points, it was just right. It was an enjoyable ride. I had a lot of fun watching this film, and my expectations of the movie were super low due to the fact that I've heard from so many sources that it was awful, it was dog shit. I don't know where that's coming from. Like, it's a little messy, but no more messy than others were. Like, I think Thor Love and Thunder is more messy. I think Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is more tonally inconsistent. I think the Black Panther Wakanda Forever dragged on too long. Like, this one had the least amount of flaws in comparison to the previous ones. Like, I feel like if they had shaved a few minutes off that Wakanda Forever runtime and put it into Quantumania, we would have had a much better time with both of those movies. Of course, Wakanda Forever being my favorite of that Phase 4 lineup. Never mind. Shang-Chi was definitely my favorite of that Phase 4 lineup. Wakanda Forever, second place. But in terms of Phase 5, this is the best movie in Phase 5 so far. Yes, I know what that means. I know it's the only movie in Phase 5. Let it have a win right now, okay? But in terms of my expectations and experience, that's another easy hand grenade score for the movie. Now, I'm gonna talk a little bit spoilers. Big spoiler warning right here. I am saying it out loud this time a lot more, so people understand that I am talking spoilers here now. Skip to the time listed on your screen right now. If you're even watching this, I just assume you turned it on in the background. Alright, spoiler time. I think they should have handled Kang a little differently. So you have two villains in this movie, MODOK and Kang. Now, I think the best way to have handled this movie was to have marketed and not said anything about Kang, and just said everything about how MODOK was going to be the villain. Because I think MODOK, for the Ant-Man, the way they handled MODOK was actually pretty genius, if you think about it. They just used Darren Cross from the first Ant-Man movie, the villain, and made him into the villain of the third one, making that full circle loop. It's pretty genius, and I don't think people are acknowledging that because of the fact that he looks like George Lopez from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. To which I say, yeah, MODOK was never going to look good. Let's be real here. The only way to make him look good was to completely change his character design, and then people were going to complain about how they completely changed how MODOK looked. And I'm like, bitch, there's no pleasing people sometimes. But MODOK is MODOK. He did look pretty menacing when he had that mask on. And then I think people would have complained if he just had that mask on the whole time too. God, there's no pleasing people. But yeah, if they had handled MODOK as that main villain, and then had Kang like in the backgrounds ordering him, and then like MODOK loses, and then Kang has to come in and step in, that would have been cooler. Like immediately when I left the theater, I was thinking, damn, if they had just made this movie work out like the video game Jedi Fallen Order had, where you face some Inquisitors, the ninth sister and the second sister. I recently looked it up because I was trying to compare them in this video, in this review, and that is, if you had just made MODOK your like second sister, that sympathetic villain who had a connection to the past, it would have been a genius play. And then when Ant-Man goes to face MODOK in the, I think it's unconfirmed, but that was Chronopolis, it would have been genius to have had that happen. So then MODOK fails right in the heart of the whole operation, in which case, much like Trilla, the second sister, did in Fallen Order, and she then decides to help the hero, the main villain comes in. And that would, like in Fallen Order, where Darth Vader comes in and then just starts wreaking havoc, and the only way you can survive is by running the fuck away. That's what could have happened in Quantumania. Kang could have been the Darth Vader type. Much so. Because I've seen that a lot of the complaints for this film is Kang gets beaten by Ant-Man. And how is that making him a huge Avengers level threat? Ant-Man beat Kang by luck, and even then I don't think he beat Kang. It's as simple as that. But it's, if they had handled him and made him more like Darth Vader from the end of Rogue One, from the end of Jedi Fallen Order, I think people would have less complaints about this film. But all in all, that's the spoiler talk right there. And now it's time to put it on the Hot Pockets to hand grenade spectrum. Due to all the scores, tallying them up, this is a certified hand grenade score. And now in terms of stars, let's put that at 4.5 stars, mostly because Jonathan Majors is that fucking good in this film and in this role. And those are my thoughts and opinions on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, because I'll be probably doing these every week or every so days. Depends on when I see a new 2023 release. Be sure to follow me on Letterboxd at SlayerG, link in the description. And you know what? Leave a comment if you have any movie recommendations that I should put on the Hot Pockets to hand grenade spectrum. Till then, see you next time. Signing out.